Okay, if we could, we're gonna, just to give Gina plenty of time so we can visit about the budget, we're gonna move.
I can't hear.
I don't know how to remedy this.
I have no idea. Chuck, there's only so much we can do. So we're gonna go ahead and go forward. What we're gonna do is we're gonna move item B, personnel, up to the first on the agenda and move the proposed budget, FY 2022 budget, to second so that we can have a visit with Gina. And so at this point, we are in item B, personnel. One thing I was going to ask, if we could please, since Dr. Battle is not here and won't be in here to the meeting on the 12th, is if we could pull two of the 2021-2022 appointments of Stephen Kohut, the facilities director, and then we have one other on the pay revision on Pam Reynolds, so that we can have a chance to visit with Dr. Battle on her recommendations, since these are admin level policies. So we'd like a chance to kind of visit with her. So if that's okay.
I think we need a motion going.
Need a motion and a second to that, if we could please.
I'll motion.
I have a move by. I have a motion.
That we pull Stephen Kohut and Pam Reynolds from the personnel agenda item.
Chuck, I just need you to second, because Taylor already moved that.
I second it.
That's perfect. All those in favor, call for the vote.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington? Yes.
You have before you on the agenda, you have the balance of appointments and resignations. If there's aren't any other questions or concerns, we would make a motion to approve the balance of as presented.
I so motion.
I have a motion by Taylor to approve the personnel as presented.
Second.
I have a second by Kelly. Mary, any other questions? If not, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington? Yes.
Thank you. And Gina, we are down to FY 2022 proposed budget, and we sure appreciate you here today to present a little bit and give us an overview of what the district's up to and where we're headed.
All right, thank you very much. This presentation is more just where the budget comes from, just so you're more, I guess, understanding. If I don't make it bigger, just so the one slide is on here.
I just activate the slide.
Oh. Okay, so how the budget is created, it's set by the state legislature. I'm sorry?
It's his dog.
Title 15 refers to education. Chapter 9, sections 15-901 through 15-1261 refer to school finance. The legislature has required that ADE, which is Arizona Department of Education, and the Auditor General work together to get the rules out, and they hand it down to the districts, and that's what we follow, is the USFR. Where do revenues come from? Our major funding is through local taxes, property taxes, and we have federal impact aid, state equalization, county equalization, our state grants, federal grants, and then cash funds. There's different categories that we spend monies from. Our main one is maintenance and operation. We have unrestricted capital outlay, which is also known as DAA, classroom site fund, instructional improvement fund, and that's actually where we pay our intervention is from. Federal and state projects, bond funds, agency funds, fiduciary funds, and our special revenue funds. Special revenue funds are those associated with auxiliary tax credit donations, student activities. Fiduciary funds are funds that we hold like in a trust for staff benefits, like a 403B, for example. Then expenditures are limited by fund types. There's M&O, which is basically your operational side of things, salaries, benefits, supplies, utilities, maintenance and repairs, travel and PD. Then we have our capital funds, which is furniture, equipment, vehicles, and anything related to technology for hardware and software. Then breaking it down even more, funds are divided into 4 programs. You have your regular education, special education, CTE, and transportation. When it comes down to the budget, it's actually based on a very structured formula, and it's heavily dependent on our ADM. So, to be enrolled with us.
Gina, and our ADM is 3,500, 36.
We're about 30, well, we ended around 33 past year. So, and then I think that's what we're building our budget on this year, but we're hoping that we're back up to 6 like it was pre-COVID. ADM is your average daily membership, and that's your number of students enrolled, including fractional and non-fractional and full-time students minus the time that they've withdrawn if they have. Distance learners are classified as AOI students. Typically, we receive a 5% funding decrease, but my understanding is for fiscal year 22, we will be fully funded up to 50% of our students. Arizona State Legislature sets up school finance systems, and they provide equal dollars, and this is known as equalization. And that's just making sure that all districts are funded properly and equitably. I said that correctly. There's some districts that are in, lower assessed valuation areas or poverty. So this helps give everybody equal funding. And then equalization assistance helps sets the budget for maintenance and operational funds, your capital funds, and classroom site fund. For base support formulas, you take your weighted student count by the base level amount, which is set each year by legislature as well. And then you take your teacher experience index and multiply all those together. And then your funding is takes into account costs associated with educating the students based on whether they're, special education, or if they're regular education, where you're located as a district, rural, urban, suburban, and if you're an elementary or high school district. Group A students are your general population, and then there's also some special needs categories that are categorized as Group A, which is your specific learning disabilities, emotional disabilities. You see them listed there. And you take your weighted student count, your student count, and it's multiplied by that 1.268 weighted percent, and that's what gives you your weighted count. And then for Group B students, it's your special needs students, and depending on the category that they fall in, which I don't know if you can't see my cursor, but they're all listed right there. And then once you take your student count and enter in the number, then it gives you the amount that they're multiplied by. And then those combined will give you your weighted student count for the district. Your base level amount is determined annually by legislature, and it's per each student that is enrolled. Then we also get extra funding for teacher compensation and teacher experience index. That just basically says the more experienced a teacher is, they know it costs more to fund them because they're higher on your salary schedule. Then we have our classroom site fund, and it's based on prior year ADM. This year, actually, it's going up quite a bit. I think last year it was maybe $425 per student count. This year, it's going to be $733, and the state has changed their law on how it can be spent. Typically, in the past, it's been for us counselors and teachers only, and going forward, we can now start including instructional support staff. So that's something that the 301 committee is going to have to address and probably make some changes.
And is that sustained? It's not, I mean, it's a
It's not-
continuous thing, it's not a doozy
No,
windfall
no,
and
this
then
is,
disappear kind of thing? or
no,
whatever?
it will be going, continue. A continuous thing. Pupil transportation funding. I don't even know how to paraphrase this. This is basically telling you that we get extra funding for our students that are transported. They get additional funding for academic trips, vocational trips, athletics. This is also based on average daily miles per eligible student. I believe, I might have miswrote, I forgot to double check on this, but I think it's 1.5 miles from the school, where they live from school.
Usually it's a 1 mile radius is most.
I thought it was 1 for elementary and 1.5. I could be wrong.
High school, no, for 1.5 for high school, it is a little far.
And then you just divide your district's total daily route miles by the number of eligible students. And then that quotient is multiplied by $2.74, and that's what gives you your funding. This is just the steps it takes. I don't know if you want me to read through all of these.
You're okay.
I was just trying, I'll send you guys this information. I was just trying to put as much in there that, so you'll understand. Expenditure limits, this is just breaking it down, like simplified. Basically, you take your number of students multiplied by your state support. And then you also take your total number of miles transferred multiplied by your state support, and that gives you your transportation. Those totals together will give you your budget. The state's responsibility for their portion of the budget. Legislature sets the qualifying tax rate, and then that is multiplied by your assessed values in the school district, and whatever tax revenue is generated is compared to the expenditure limit, and the state will pay the difference. So districts that are in areas that have higher assessed values, they get less help from the state because they have property taxes that are covering their funding. Districts that are on federal lands or lower assessed values, because they don't get in as much from the communities, so then the state will kick in and pay a majority of their funding. This is where our expenditures ended this year. So we see the majority of it is going to salaries and benefits. Then we have our purchase services, supplies, and then just minor other miscellaneous expenditures. And that is pretty much it. Any questions?
Gina, just one question on that, where essentially 50% of the pie goes to salaries?
Correct.
And do you break that down even further for admin and all others, or
I could, if that's what you're interested in, I could.
would that be good, just so we kind of had a.
I can have it on the next board meeting. Mhm. Anything else?
You're gonna kind of,
I'll go over the budget next.
yeah, perfect,
Are
thanks.
you guys ready for a quiz first? I'm going to talk about. I'm just kidding.
You'll know when the eyes start to glaze, so that's not a problem.
Okay, so when we do the budget, you guys have it up on your screens. I'm just gonna show you the order that we typically go in. So we start on this page, and it's the data entry sheet. And a lot of this is already pre-populated by the state. The state sends out these budget sheets every year. And some of the data we're required to put in, like it asks for your prior year ADM, which is the last 2 years. So you have your fiscal year 20 and your 21. And then for current year, you have to kind of guesstimate what you think your ADM is going to be. I usually like to try to go in a little bit low, because towards the end of the year, I mean, it's better to budget up than budget down, and then you lose capacity.
Gina, just a question, what page are you on right there?
I'm starting on the data entry sheet. I'm not sure what page it's
After the summary sheets. So, and after the truth in taxation.
we're kind of going out of order. I'm trying to do things in a flow.
So
This
it's
is how,
page 15?
I'm not looking at the
Data
same
entry
thing.
sheet,
I'm
you're
sorry.
at page 15? Is
Yeah.
that right?
I'm trying to find it.
I think it's page 15 or this,
Keep going.
you're on the data entry sheet?
Data entry, correct.
There we go. This-
What was it, 13?
Page 15.
15, okay, so right there you go.
Sorry about that, I'm looking at my actual budget sheet, so. So you see at the top where I was talking about your ADM. So this year, we're anticipating around 3,355 students. And then the next column is your special needs students. And this is filled out by their disability. So the number there is how many students that we are anticipating for each category. Then if you go down, we get the extra support for teacher compensation. The base level amount is $4,359, but I believe that's going to change. The state was late in setting their budget this year. Normally they have it done by maybe the end of May, beginning of June, but this year they were struggling a little bit and they just barely passed the budget. Maybe Friday or Monday, I'm getting.
It's ahead of normal, isn't it? Isn't it usually the 29th or 30th at midnight? or
Usually,
11th?
yeah, it's midnight on the 29th, so.
So they're gonna have to set out new budget sheets. So in September, we'll be doing this again and then we'll have the new formulas, anything that changed as far as funding. So the budget might change a bit accordingly. You just put in this is our expenditures for our audit. And this is for fiscal year 20's audit. Then the transportation section is just asking for your route miles and how many eligible students. And transportation is based on prior year as well. So this is actual data where we ended off last year.
So just as a question, since there wasn't as many miles last year,
We went down significantly, but I know the transportation, it's increasing a little bit. The route mileage allowance is going up maybe 3 cents a mile, which is not a lot, but it'll help offset some of that. Then you have your assessed valuations. Our taxes are set by county, so all the information comes from them. Then you have your budget balance carried forward. Right now, it's actually left blank because for budget adoption, it says not to enter anything because we're still actually working in our system this year. We haven't closed out. So by the time we come to probably our May revision, we'll have our actual amount in there. And that's pretty much it for that page. Then after that, if you go over to page 7,
It's gonna be 9 probably. I think it'll be 9 because you have 2 pages that don't have a.
what's the?
it's one that says calculation of fiscal year 22 general budget limit.
So it's number 9.
Okay. So the revenue control limit, that's just telling you what your budget is. And then if you go over to the side under column B, unrestricted capital outlay, we're taking 600,000 out of M&L and moving it to capital because we have a lot of capital projects going on that we will use some of that funding for. Below it is just basically column A is your maintenance and operation budget. And that's your revenue control limit, your override, which is 2.5 million. And right here, it did bring in our budget balance carry forward, and that's just an estimated number right now. That's gonna change. And then Prop 301 Prop 123 towards the bottom. That whole column will give you your M&O budget, which is $32 million. And I will let you know now that we did have to decrease our budget by about $1 million because of our decrease in student count. So that's why we're hoping that we do get all of our kids back to what it was pre-COVID, because then we'll go ahead and be able to adjust the budget upwards again.
So just clarification, you're having to decrease the budget by almost $1 million or $1 million due to less students.
Less students, correct. And then column B, like I said, that's just your district, additional assistance or capital.
And just one more time on the budget balance carry forward, just clarify kind of what your notes is, because there's some of that.
It's gonna change. That's currently where we are right now, but because we're still, operating in this year, we have until August 30th to close out any, pending invoices. And then at that time, then we'll know what our actual carry forward will be.
Okay, so pending invoice, all of the repair on the parking lot, et cetera, or what kind of things will fit into that?
Part of that is gonna be paid in this year, and it's gonna be like, it's called construction in progress. So whatever they've completed up until June 30th, will get billed for that portion, and then anything else will get rolled over to next year's budget. Page 10 for you guys is your unrestricted capital budget. And a lot of this information, like I said, a lot of it's already pre-filled. So it's taking in your budget balance from the previous page and then adding in your carry forward.
It's all formulas that continue.
Correct. It's all formulas that are already in there. So on the last line, 3.9 million is what the capital budget will be. So then that's the information that we enter in, and if you go all the way forward now to maybe page 3, and it should say maintenance and operations M&O fund. This is just where we break down the budget, if you will, and we guesstimate where the expenditures are going to take place. So under salaries, and it's broken down here by, you have instruction, support services. The top half of the sheet is for general education. The second half is for CTE and special education. And then each column, as you can see, is just your salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and miscellaneous for each of those categories. You have any questions on this?
No, just a couple of them, and maybe just to kind of, the increased ones, just in general, looks like school administration has an increase of 28%.
Yes, and when I do this, I usually will go back and look in the prior year and kind of see where we ended off and adjust accordingly. So last year I may have said that we were, I may have put less in the budget line, but we actually spent more in that line. So this year I went and adjusted up to what we actually spent.
So this 2021 number is the actual, or that was last year's budget?
This year. Well,
Oh,
fiscal
yeah,
year
sorry.
21.
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
that's the actual though, that's not what we had budgeted for? Or that was?
That's actual of what we had on this page. That's not actually where we ended up on our actual expenditures now.
Okay, that was my question.
And this page right here, like I said, as long as you don't go past the bottom number, like 32 million on the bottom right-hand corner, that's your total budget there. And that's what you don't want to go over. All this other stuff in the middle is just kind of where you're guessing your expenditures are going to take place. It's not anything set in stone.
And that's where you're showing that we're going to be $1 million difference between
Yes,
FY
from this year and next
21
year.
and 22.
Correct. The next page. The 4.4 million is just pulling from the prior page, and it's the total dollars that were put in those budget lines for your ESS students, your special needs students. And then the column next to it, which is the budget fiscal year, that's how much we have budgeted for fiscal year 22.
I have a question, actually. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. On the prior page, for us, it's page 3. Excuse me, the dropout prevention programs, do we not have any?
We don't have an official one. We have interventionists that we kind of use in lieu of that, but we don't have an actual, an official fund 530. The number right there next to each of these, like the 530, 540, those are your, like the fund numbers. We don't get anything for an actual dropout prevention grant or.
We use Graduation Alliance as our dropout recovery, but the way that works is not from this fund. It's as they find kids that are ours, and then we get ADM when they're successful. That's how it compensates back to us. So we have it, but it's not accounted for in this fund.
And I can't remember, did we approve that before?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
so that might be
Graduation
something that
Alliance.
Dr. Beebe can get you, because it raises a percentage, but that's a great question.
I was just curious because it's listed there and it was.
But the bottom line, the district does have a program with
We have a program.
outside group that captures them, and I can't remember what it was back in like October or November, we approved that or something like that, so we can get that too. Gina, you're back on.
Okay,
Sorry.
so that's okay. Page 4, like I said, and you'll see a drop in some of these current year columns because of, obviously, of the decrease. And that's basically all that is. Do you have any questions on this page? Oh, and then item line 10, sorry, is a new requirement for us now. This is the first year we saw this, so we just have to estimate or guess what we think we're going to be spending for pupil transportation for ESS students with IEPs. The following page is our classroom site fund. Like I said, typically we've spent most of it in instruction and counselors. And everything's usually, it's all spent in salaries and benefits. I guess there's some districts that maybe use it for other, like supplies and other purchase services. We've never done that, so we don't budget anything in those columns. And then this year, we will be including student instructional staff in 301 as well. The bottom chart shows that's what gives us our budget. It's our current year. Kind of like what our budget is with our carry forward, I think is what it is, Sharon. Sharon's the one that does this page for me because she takes care of our classroom site fund.
Yeah, so just
So-
before we leave, expenditures, line item 2100, support services students.
Mhm.
And FYI, if in 2021 is 49,000 and 2022 is 971,000.
Correct.
Is that ESSER money or what is?
No, this is the one I told you that the funding is increasing to $733 per student count.
Yeah.
And that's because they're including other staff now.
That's
We're
the
actually
state,
gonna get funded better.
by the state.
By the state, yes.
Yeah, go figure.
Well, that's been a big push for a lot of districts for a long time to be properly funded for your highest cost students.
Was that a non-funded mandate? Is that what we heard for a long time? Is that-
Yes, there's a lot of those.
That's a lot.
Any questions on that page? Okay, so the following page is our unrestricted capital outlay. And again, we just break it down where we think the expenditures are gonna take place, and everything in these columns and the column down beneath has to equal, it can't go over your budget, which is that 3.9 million on the right-hand side. And that's basically all this is. If you have any questions? The next page, we don't do anything on this page. This is just information that gets pulled from data from the previous pages. And the following page is just asking for our grants. So on the left-hand, the left-hand column, we include our budgets, like for what our grants are gonna be. Some of them aren't set yet, so we just kind of go what our current grant is at this year. When we do our revision, then we will update the amounts of each grant. On the right-hand column, these are our cash balances. For food service, your auxiliary funds, for donations. And student activities and
Does that really say down there in the very, does that say down there in the very bottom under internal service funds, number 4? Is that Confucius?
oh, Confucius, yes.
That's a huge spot. Well, when they had Mandarin Chinese.
And that actually is everything. All that information summed up is the budget, and all that will transfer over to your cover page. And that's what tells you your budget for operation and capital and your grant funds.
So I only had one thing I noticed on would be page 12. Right at the very top where it says attending, the 2020 and the 2021,
Summary
and
page.
then the 2022.
This page 12 for last year.
Yeah, page 12 for us.
What is it?
Summary page
Oh,
one.
the summary, okay. Mhm.
We don't actually have 33,555 up there, right? On our budget for-
No. Maybe I need to go ahead and change that. Thank you for catching that. Oh, let me go back. I'll fix that and I will. Thank you. That's actually gonna be the 3,355.
Yeah, I see that.
There it is.
And that's it. Lots of fun.
That's great, and then the balance of there's like 12 pages or 20 pages of notes and different things.
Oh, gosh.
All the formulas.
Those are, yeah, the instructions, like if we have questions, like it gives us direction on what information to put in there. And then, I have a folder here that we pull reports from the state that helps us enter all this data.
Okay, anybody, this is just a proposed budget. We will adopt the actual budget on July 12th. It's due before the county by the 19th, is that correct?
The 15th.
The 15th, sorry. So the 12th, July 12th.
And the 13th.
Is our board meeting, apologize. 13th would be important, but this is the proposed, so if you have any other changes, et cetera, then you'll get information out to the board. Or if the board has any other questions.
There actually won't be any changes to this. Once we do this, we can't change anything to, once this gets approved, we can't change anything. So the next change will be in September.
Okay, so we're adopting the proposed budget as presented
Correct.
with changes? You've got to
Well,
change
just
the-
that one.
Okay.
And I already
She already
changed it.
changed it. It's now.
I changed it on this one already.
It's
so-
it's a live document on her computer, so
Oh,
I just watched her, she just changed it. It's there.
Just make sure it wasn't Dave.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Does this reflect the salary increase that we voted on for the following year in this budget?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Say 5.4, well, I was trying to remember, it said salary increase somewhere. I can't remember.
Yes, again, like I said, that's just, it's not concrete. That page one is just like it's a fluid page. I mean, everything's gonna change, from there. But when we do our AFR at the end of the year, it'll say where our actual expenditures did land.
And if I may, for our new board members, the process here is, this is, the budget is presented to you. And then once it's presented and approved, it has to become, it's public now for at least 10 days before you would go the second time. And then you have to approve it before the 15th, a final budget before the 15th of July.
Any other questions? Joe, Chuck, any other questions for Gina?
No, everything good.
Okay, do you guys, would you two, anybody want to make a motion to accept the proposed 2022 budget as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I have a motion by Kelly to approve the 2022 budget as presented. Second?
I'll second.
And Taylor, second. Any other questions? If not, Mayor, we'll call for the vote, please.
Mr. Wright,
Yeah.
Mr. Lopez,
Yeah.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
and Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Business come before the board. Go ahead.
Because this is not an agenda item, I know I want to bring it up now, but when this meeting is over, before we lose the other two board members, I'd like to just give the board a quick update on our safely return to school and ESSER 3 funds and some stuff that the board can be prepared for down the road.
That sounds great. So with that, we can adjourn. You can adjourn. Further business coming, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting and